Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
So what exactly are voters being asked on June the 23rd? Who will lead the campaigns and how much can they spend? The text of the referendum question will read, should the United Kingdom remain a member of the European Union or leave the European Union? It's been agreed with the Electoral Commission, which is in charge of making sure it's a fair contest. The Commission is also expected to designate lead campaigns for both the Leave and Remain sides. At the moment, there are two organisations in the Leave camp battling for this recognition. The official campaigns will get access to a grant of up to £600,000 and an overall spending limit of £7 million. The spending limit for political parties depends on the percentage of the vote they received at the general election. The Conservatives have £7 million. Labour is limited to £5.5 million. UKIP £4 million and the Liberal Democrats £3 million. Parties that got less than 5% of votes will be limited to £700,000. David Cameron's choice of referendum date slightly crunches the normal timetable set out by the Electoral Commission, which gives about 6 weeks to get the required secondary legislation through Parliament. Another 6 weeks for the period when lead campaigns are designated, which could theoretically have some overlap with the 10-week formal referendum period. So, our esteemed panel, listening to all of that, let's pick up though first on this designation of the campaigns. How important is that going to be, Nick?
Well, it's obviously very important on one side, the Leave side. We know that Britain's Stronger in Europe, who are now known as BSE, will obviously be the Remain campaign, and David Cameron will be the effective leader of that. But there is obviously this row going on between these two groups on the Leave side. There's Vote Leave, they're the ones who hosted those 6 cabinet ministers yesterday, and Grassroots Out, which obviously has quite strong links with UKIP. Now, there's a legal process that the Electoral Commission has to decide which of those ones to designate. The Grassroots Out is ticking the cross-party support box, but Vote Leave is a pretty established group. It's got some very serious figures in it, so that will be quite a difficult one for the Electoral Commission. But I mean, which one of them gets it will obviously have a huge impact on what sort of Leave campaign is run. Grassroots Out say we're very sort of, we're out in the country. Vote Leave is seen to be very sort of Westminster based.
And also the issues that they focus on, because immigration is seen as a key issue, as is the economy. But I mean, which campaign do you think will connect with the public, Melanie?
I don't know which campaign will connect with the public because I'm not sure where the public is going to fixate on. I mean, the immigration is its top concern. But what interests me is to come back to this business of self-government, because I think that underlying the immigration thing is people feel if only our government could be sure of setting its own border policy, then we don't actually mind how many people come in. It's a subsidiary question. This business of NATO, you see, is absolutely crucial. It's a crucial confusion. We are in NATO as a self-governing nation with our own independent foreign policy. The point about the EU is that it wished to make our foreign policy subordinate to EU foreign policy. No one in the Leave camp suggests that Britain outside the EU wouldn't make treaties or deals. The point about what the Prime Minister has done, he's redefined sovereignty from self-government to the making of deals, and he suggests fantastically that outside the EU, Britain would be powerless to make commercial deals or to enter into security arrangements, as if the countries of Europe didn't have a common interest in accessing our intelligence and fighting the campaigns and the battles that we are fighting to protect our common security.
But the big problem, I suppose, for that argument, potentially, which the Prime Minister will return to, are the current issues now of terrorism, of migrant crisis. Isn't it better to be part of the European arrest warrant? Isn't it better to be part of a European set of nations?
And actually what you have there, two facing off, like Melanie's argument there and then yours putting the Prime Minister's argument, is two unknown unknowns facing each other off, which is why, with the greatest respect to Melanie, I don't think that is going to play very well with the readers at all. Debating sovereignty, whether it's, you have more control by remaining in the EU, out of it, it's just not going to rock the voters' boats. What they care about is immigration and jobs. And that's why you have these two different sort of Leave arguments playing out against each other, grassroots versus vote Leave, because grassroots very much want to make it about immigration.
The Leave side do have a very important argument, which is that the idea that Germany and France are going to say, tutty bye to the UK, you head off into the North Atlantic and we're going to whack tariffs on you, I'm sure is a strong argument. But the problem for the Leave campaign is that they have no certainty, because if we leave, we trigger Article 50. What is the first thing that happens when you trigger Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty is the United Kingdom leaves the European Council. And the European Council then appoints 2 member states who have 2 years to negotiate our leave arrangements. That is then decided on by the basis of qualified majority voting, and then the sting in the tail, the European Parliament have to approve it.
It's true.
So there's no certainty.
It's right. And the certainty is true.
So is Project Fear going to work?
It may well work. It may well work because fear has a very powerful effect. It's true that leaving the EU brings uncertainty, but that is the price of freedom. If you want certainty, by all means stay in the EU. What are we certain of? That we will never be able to control our immigration, and we will never be able to control our own laws. That's the certainty of the subservient.
And which argument is going to win out, do you think, over the next few weeks? Because that is, we heard it there with Chris Grayling and with Hilary Benn, the trade argument and the migration and security argument. It will come down, I think, to those two sets of issues. And will people feel free enough to take a gamble, which is, I suppose, what it is to some extent?
Well, that's absolutely the nub of it for me. It is not about sovereignty or slightly more esoteric values. You had a really interesting debate there going with Chris Grayling and then Hilary Benn. Chris Grayling fell down, I fear, by not being able to give you an answer to 4 or even 5 times when you asked him, how can you guarantee we'll still have a decent enough trade deal
But this is how
if we leave?
When did you stop beating your wife argument, with all due respect?
Hilary Benn, I'm not sure Joe has a wife.
No.
Hilary Benn came in neatly with Project Fear then from the Labour point of view, saying, well, you know, I wouldn't trust David Cameron with your workers' rights, would you? So at the end of the day, it is for Remain.
With the greatest respect
it is for Leave have to come in and make themselves so credible, so optimistic to defeat all that Project Fear.
When you see somebody like Michael Gove making the case, that 1,500-word piece he wrote yesterday was an incredibly impressive piece of work. When you have him on the television, and what has happened in the last few days is that Tom and I were in Brussels for the Prime Minister press conference. That was really impressive, really clear. Michael Gove, his stuff was really impressive, really clear. You've got some big beasts who are going to make some really serious arguments.
Let's talk then about the personal stuff. What happens after the referendum? Can they be friends? Can David Cameron really keep it stitched together with people like Michael Gove?
Well, you know, one thing I've learnt being in politics is politicians can be a bit weird. David Cameron and Michael Gove are said to be really good mates, and now Michael Gove is doing something that could lead to the end of his premiership. It's a bit like the night that Peter Mandelson was hounded out of the cabinet by Alistair Campbell. They then ended up having a sing-song over a piano, I think at Alistair Campbell's mother's party. This is not normal behaviour, but hey, they're politicians.
Right, and could David Cameron be trusted to lead out?
Lead us out
you know,
of the European
Union? If the vote is out of the European, can he survive?
No,
yes or no?
That's never going to happen.
No,
not
is that never
I think it's extremely unlikely.
Right. All right.
He'll be finished,
no.
but he doesn't want to say that.
That's it for today. Thank you very much to all my guests.